Ahoy ahoy to all you smooth sailors out there, and welcome aboard the Deck Tales podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sammy Catlin, and this is the show where we set sail into the captivating world of ship life. Most of the time, delving into the best and worst experiences of the incredible crew members who call the open sea their workplace, but I'm open to the odd exception as well. Whether we're navigating stunning destinations to weathering unexpected storms, our guests all have stories to tell that will make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even shed an unexpected tear. So if you're a seasoned cruiser eagerly awaiting your next embarkation, or just curious as to what goes on at sea, Deck Tales is your boarding pass to a world of nautical narratives. My guest today is Mr. Andy Elton, a former entertainment staff and guest act performer with around 8 years of experience at sea. We spoke about how his career evolved over the years, what it was like for him being stranded on a ship during COVID, how crew members really struggled with their mental health during that time, the various charter cruises he's worked on, and loads more. He was so much fun to talk to, and I really enjoyed his stories, so let's anchor up and dive right in. Andy! Sorry, I started recording.
I know you started straight away. We didn't even get a chance to say anything yet or say hello. I only said hello.
Hello. It's all good, man.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, I'm still standing.
For the purposes of the introduction, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been in the industry and what it is you do?
Well, my name's Andy, nicknamed Andy Elton since I was on ships for 8 years. I was on board the ship. I was in the entertainment team. I did all sorts of bits and pieces, as you'll probably find out some juicy information in this interview. But yeah, no, I did it for 8 years. Loved every single moment of it. My favourite job I've ever had in my entire life was working on board a cruise ship. Was with TUI for a bit, and then moved to Royal Caribbean, which is where I spent most of my time on board ships.
And you were predominantly working as an entertainment staff team member?
I was an entertainment staff member, and then COVID hit and lots of things changed and my life went crazy. And I had an incredible career on ships doing many different things in the entertainment department on top of what I did already, which was incredible.
What happened? How did you go from being an entertainer to being a guest act on board ships, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so that was a really big change. So I was on Anthem of the Seas after the pandemic, and I was just doing my regular job. Every so often, a show would go down because of COVID and all the rules on board and close contacts. So people had to be put into, isolation. And we ended up with having absolutely no shows. And for years, I'd done my own Elton John act at home. I'd also done little bits on ships. I used to do it as more of a musical trivia, but, a live music trivia, whereas, a lot of people just press play on a laptop. So I dressed up, I did it properly, and I got a call. It was really late. It was really late in the evening, about 6 p.m. And it was the cruise director had literally just taken over that ship. The old cruise director had got off. We were heading to the US, and there was just no acts really. And so the first 2 weeks we were going out of Bayonne in New York, they put my show on, along with something I always have to thank was someone called Ollie Hantz, who he is a show conductor on board. He was doing We Will Rock You, and he actually wrote my charts for that show because I had nothing. I was literally, I was just an amateur really. As much as I was doing my bits and pieces in the schooner bar or in a music hall or a smaller venue, I've never had an orchestra. I'd never had an orchestra. So going from playing along with playback to then playing along with the full-on orchestra they had on board was insane. And it was amazing. I had a really, really good time. And so I left literally after those 2 weeks. It was my last time on board that ship. I was finishing my contract anyway. I was flying back home. I ended up then getting offered a contract on Quantum of the Seas, Singapore. And even though our restrictions had lifted here in the UK or over in the States, it was still very much a big thing happening over there in Singapore and in Asia. So we had like government trackers and stuff. My first week on board after I got out of quarantine, because they had 14-day hotel quarantine in Singapore, which was rough. And then all the acts had gone down again. So I ended up doing a show. The guests loved it, so I did it again the next week, then the next week, then the next week, then the next week. And that whole contract, I was doing 2 shows a week, as well as doing my regular job on top of that. So it got to a point where I'd finish bingo and then go to my room and get changed into Elton John, do a sound check and, be straight onto it, It was really good. I loved every single moment of it. And then I got offered I was offered representation by a management company who deal with putting guest entertainers on the ships.
Yes.
And yeah, so I started there, and it went from there. And it's been, it was an awesome ride. I mean, I don't work on ships anymore. I had a couple of medical issues a couple of years ago. So it was the moment where I decided, you know what, I need to be here rather than, jetting a bird. So that's how it went. Yeah.
So when did you stop ships? What year?
Yeah, 2020. 2023.
Oh, okay. 2023. And when did you start?
Yeah, so it's the end. Oh,
what was the
2016, 17?
Okay. Do you remember why you started?
Yeah, I do. When I was a kid, I went on a cruise with my parents, and there was a cruise director hosting the Love and Marriage game show where it was like Family Feud or something like that, whatever it was. And it was Hello Chloe, which was Chloe O'Connor, cruise director. And I remember watching her and going, oh my God, this is an actual job. Like, people do this. Like, I want to do this. I was only like 12 or 13 at the time. I went, do you know what? I'm going to go and do that. I was at university and I was finishing university. I just didn't know what to do, what I wanted to do. I ended up going and auditioning for TUI because Royal Caribbean wouldn't have me at the time because I had no experience. But that's changed, I think, these days. I think they'll just take anybody who will accept their terms and conditions. But yeah, so I went and worked for TUI, which was really good fun. Very British ships. People are going to hate me for this, but Butlins at Sea. It is a great. If you've never been on a cruise before and you want to go on a cruise, TUI, all inclusive, Marella Cruises, go for it. I recommend it for guests anyway. I mean, what you get for your money is incredible. As a crew member, it was great. There was some more perks actually working for TUI than working for Royal Caribbean when it came to eating and your cabin turn down service and things like that. So I will say there was some highs and there was some lows of working for that company.
I just ask, are you using your data or are you logged in on the hotel Wi-Fi?
I am on super fast Wi-Fi here. Why is it cutting me out?
Your image is staying static quite a lot of the time whilst you're talking. Okay. And considering you're also in London, right?
Yeah, I'm literally right by the Barbican. I can literally look out the window and the Barbican's there. So
it's strange that you are so close to me in a sense of like I've been talking to people from everywhere, and yet this is one of the worst connections.
Yeah, it's the worst quality. It's the worst. But that's Sod's Law.
At least you're moving now. Like you. Before,
am I moving? Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
That was what I was more concerned about than anything.
Well, maybe you could have put that in the podcast and just said he doesn't move anymore. The reason why he doesn't work on the ships anymore is he can't move.
He's a vegetable.
I could get away with it. We could get away with that. Come on.
You're better now. You're better now, Andy. Who's your provider?
EE.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's
supposed to be everything everywhere, isn't it? Clearly it's not. It's everything elsewhere.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm with Vodafone, and there's certain parts of London where it's just non-existent, like Putney. They don't have it at all around there. So
yeah, no, I can imagine. I used to be with Free, and that was terrible. That was absolutely awful. No matter where you went. Or what's the other O2? O2, they're getting shocking, aren't they? Yeah. Absolutely. So I remember I was in the O2 Arena, and I couldn't get any signal in the O2 Arena. It's named after the bloody company. What's going on?
Well, you know where there is no signal, Andy, and that's on board cruise ships out in the middle of the ocean.
Bloody true, but it's getting better, isn't it? I mean, this Starlink thing. I mean, when did you were on ships, weren't you?
2006, 2010.
Okay, so it all stopped. So you didn't have the luxury of Starlink.
No. It's not yet a real thing, is it? It's getting there.
But it's vastly improved. When I first started on a cruise, I didn't even use the internet when I was first on board. I just didn't bother. Didn't want to pay for it. I was like, that's ridiculous. The costs for internet. These days, the cruise companies are going to have to make a decision whether or not we know what they want to do. They want to make money off the crew, but personally. It's people are not going to come back if they can't keep in contact with their friends and family back home. And these days, internet comes close to running water and food.
Well, in some cases, it was the not being able to keep in touch with your family and friends was the selling point for some crew members.
No, definitely. I think that was when I first went. When I first went on cruise ships, I went, oh, this is great. I don't have to worry about it. My mum texted me going, when are you coming to see us or anything like that? These days it happens all the time. But they're always on holiday. So
I was on my first contract about 2 weeks in and I was like, oh shit, I haven't even called mum or text anyone or sent an email. No. And it was New Year's Eve in Madeira.
Oh,
And it was the firework festival extravaganza that at that time broke the record for the most expensive display or something. This is before Dubai took the record, whatever. And I was like, Mum, I called her up. I'm by no means a mummy's boy, but I got overwhelmed with emotion. So I wish you were here. I wish you was seeing this, what I'm seeing, But you ever have any moments like that, see, where you just kind of, I don't know.
I think when the pandemic started happening, as well, when most crew members will know, we don't really turn on the TV. Even if we've got a TV in the cabin, you're not going to turn it on and look at the news. You get off in a port, you find Wi-Fi, and you have a quick scroll through your Facebook. And that's how you get the news, unless the guests have told you. And of course, this COVID thing was happening on the telly, and you're like, what the hell's going on there? They're locking countries down. We didn't have a clue. I can remember when they made a decision and they just told all the crew to go to the theatre for this meeting, and they just said, we're going to stop cruising from, this is what the Royal Caribbean has said. We're going to stop cruising and we're going to go and anchor ourselves in the Bahamas. It's like, oh, right. Okay. And so I had to, that was the moment where I felt like I desperately needed to speak to somebody, because I wanted to know what the hell is going on, because this is scary. When you're on that little tug, because I was on Empress of the Seas, and that was the last time Empress of the Seas was with Royal, which was amazing because it was the most beautiful, smallest ship ever. But it was one of those ships where you're always going to remember every single person that you worked with on board that ship. There was only 600 crew members. So compared to what cruise ships are now, 2,000 plus crew members. Everybody knew everybody, and it was magical in that sense. But we were so shut off from everything, and we had crap Wi-Fi and all of that. Trying to get any information apart from what we were, that's when I think, it was the only moment where I felt like I desperately need to call home. And a couple of years ago, when I was buying my house and I had some money taken from my bank account, that was scary as well. But
when you have money issues, that's when you want to call mum and dad.
Well, you can't call the bank, can you? Because you're in the Bahamas somewhere, or you're in Mexico, and it's the wrong time, and you want to just call somebody and go, by the way, I haven't done this. This money's gone missing. Yeah. That was a scary one. But that's typical working on ships. Don't use your card in silly places. You know what I mean?
So when you were like anchored down in the Bahamas, how long were you there for?
We were there for about 3 months before they decided what they were going to do.
3 months? Yeah. Were you allowed to tender ashore?
No. You were stuck on the ship. They started moving the ships into Coco Cay to do transfers of crew. So what they would do was, let's say, I don't know which ships travel to where. So for the people listening, this could all be wrong, but I believe Anthem took a lot of Indian crew members back to India. Another ship would take people back to the Philippines. I think they used a lot of ships for the Philippines and Indonesia. And then they took Majesty and Empress back to the UK, which is probably the roughest crossing in the world on that ship of those sizes. Like Empress is not designed for transatlantic at all. It was just, when you're sitting in the buffet and you literally feel like you're about to go under the water because of the way it's mad. Yeah.
After 3 months of sitting pretty in the Bahamas, not moving anywhere, you could argue that it was going to be it felt maybe a lot more rocky because you'd not been moving at all.
No, true. It was bliss. I mean, we were in the Bahamas and there was no guests on board, and they'd already got all the food on board for the next cruise. So it was really, that was a highlight, I think, was those first few weeks of the excitement of, we're not cruising. We don't know what's going to happen. And at the time, the company didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah. So they were like, are we going to be stopped just for 30 days or are we going to be stopped for this? That's what they originally went for. And then when it became apparent that they weren't going to, we weren't going to be able to carry on, that was scary. I mean, those years sat at home and all I wanted to do was entertain people or talk to people. And I'm just stuck in a flat staring at the walls, It was scary, wasn't it?
So you were stuck on board for 3 months. Was there anyone who lost their shit? And was there any truth to the some cases crew weren't getting paid as well?
Yeah. I tell you what, there was a lot of us got to a point where we just wanted to go home, and the company were doing really well to try and get us those either repatriated flights or sail us over back to our countries on the ships. There was one guy in particular that was in my team. He lost it a bit. But he'd already lost it anyway. But he lost it a bit. His name was Michael. I'll happily say it, Michael. He lived in the US And they were like, you can go home. When we go back to Miami to refuel and to get bits, you can get off and we can send you home. And he just refused to. He just refused to. In the end, they flew him via private jet back to where he lived. Yeah. They flew him via private jet. He posed, he did photos posing for his Instagram. Do you know what? I don't hate people in my life. And it's nothing to do with the fact that he got flown home on a private jet.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand why he didn't want to just go home. It was no fun anymore. We were starting to be locked into our rooms because the hotel director had changed. And this hotel director suddenly went, no, we need to take this properly seriously. Because, as I said, we didn't know what was going on. And so we got locked down. And he still wanted to be here. I'm like, why do you want to be here? Like, we're on Empress as well. It's not like we have balcony cabins because there was only like 4 of those available and that shit. So, mad, absolutely nuts. I never understood that. A lot of the crew, they got to the point where they basically said non-essential crew from this moment on will not be paid. However, we will give you, like, the Wi-Fi started opening up for us so we could start using the Wi-Fi without having to pay for it. Of course, drinks, food, everything like that was supplied by us. In particular, the hotel director left the company now, but he was incredible. He just opened the bar, just was like, open the bar. Pool deck was our vibe. We had we put a bit of live music on. This was before the lockdown stuff, but we had live music. We had a bit of a party first couple of weeks. It was good fun. We were still doing activities for the crew, trying to get them to do it. They wouldn't do it, They don't want. They're not interested in giant Jenga on the pool deck, They've got free Wi-Fi. They're going to be sat there chatting to their friends back home, and they'll, their wives and kids. But yeah, they stopped paying a lot of us, and I could see why. When you work on a cruise ship anyway, you're contracted as it is. So when you come home, you don't get paid. So, unless you're fancy and you've got a retainer. But I was never fancy.
But I also read there was some well-being hotline that.
Yes. Yeah. They've still got the well-being hotlines on the ships now. I think that's really important.
Was that implemented during that time? Because I don't remember there ever being.
I think a lot of ships already had. I know you've always got your DPA.
What's a DPA?
Designated person ashore.
Oh, okay.
So, like, a lot of companies will have a designated person ashore. So, for example, if you can't talk to HR, then you can talk to them, or the ethics hotline as well. I believe the ethics hotline. I actually had a friend who had to call the ethics hotline because he was just being locked in a cabin for something he hadn't done. So that was because, as they say, they believed the other person and just let it go until eventually she turned around and said, no, that didn't happen. So, yeah, he called the ethics hotline. He's like, I'm not having this. I feel like I'm a prisoner. I've done nothing wrong. What the hell's going on? He was like, nobody's talking to me and stuff like that. And so that was mad. I remember seeing, like, he went out for fresh air. They used to escort him because he was only it was mid-cruise. They used to escort him down the I-95 and, like, you go to the crew smoking area, etc., and he'd be taken out with security, and like
there was no process of like innocent till proven guilty. They just
but I always understand at the same time with cruise ships that if there were an issue, any for example, if he got mentally ill about it, you're on a cruise ship by an ocean, people, bad thoughts, I mean, it happens. It does happen. We all know it happens. Unfortunately, I mean, there's a number that have happened this year already with crew members either jumping off or ending their lives in their own cabins, which is really sad. It's really, really sad. It should never get to that state. But that's the issue with the companies. With companies is that if you say you've got some problems, they want you off the ship because you're a liability. They're worried that you're going to do something, and they don't want to have you they don't want it in the press that another crew member's taken their own life. You know what I mean? So I this whole thing of you can talk to us if you ever feel, no. I don't think that exists on board a cruise ship, unfortunately. And I understand.
That's what I was going to bring it up for, is that I heard about these wellness lines people could call if they felt bad.
Anonymous
or whatever, but they didn't know or feel like they could be trusting of these things. And if they called up, then they wouldn't be offered another contract when time came for them to try
Precisely. That's what people got scared of. Yeah. And unfortunately, as I know myself from, because I've worked for a charity that answer phones for people. I'm not allowed to talk about that.
Fine.
But yeah, I've worked in something similar where people call when they've got problems and they just need someone to talk to.
Like the Samaritans.
Yes, a bit like them, just nodding heavily. But it's anonymous. It's a complete anonymous hotline, so you don't know who's on the other end, etc. But yeah, with those ones for the cruise ships now, it's like when they did these crew matters surveys. That was another thing they start doing now is crew matters. So basically, you scan a QR code. Everybody has to do it, and you can say what's good, what's bad, what don't you like, how's your manager, how's your, all of this, your head of department, do you get things done in a timely, feedback, etc. Anonymous, and then we all get sat down in the theatre and shouted at by the cruise director. Oh, anonymous, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Oh shit! Is there a Samaritans or a crew matters hotline for the crew matters? Yeah. Like if a person who's doing the phone lines, a Samaritan, is feeling down, is there a Samaritans hotline?
I wish. I bloody wish. Yeah, that'd be amazing. Could you imagine?
It's got to take its toll on you.
They've set up these anonymous hotlines now so crew members can talk about their feelings. And it seems a bit of a trap, if you get what I mean. Mm. I feel like it's a bit of a trap going on there. And people will say, no, it's not. But, it's we've seen it before. We've seen people who have had a couple of problems. They're feeling a bit homesick or whatever. They've gone to see somebody and the next moment they're being disembarked and they've lost their job and not going to come back, you know what I mean? So it is one of those things. I don't think they take mental health as seriously as they should do, rather than just, get rid. I think people need to understand that a lot. When you're away from home and something happens at home, for example, let's say, I'll give you a real-term example. Let's say one of your relatives goes for a major operation, and you're not feeling it, you're really not feeling it, and you've got to go out there and do, put 110% into what you're doing, and you just can't, and you try and talk to your boss, and they just go, well, it's not happening here, is it? It's not happening here, so, carry on, I can remember going, I was having a really, really bad time on a ship, and I went to see my head of department. I just need to let them know, look, something's happening, I'm not going to be 100% present, I'm not in the right frame of mind currently to be able to go out there and do what I do, phenomenally. I can't even say the word phenomenally.
Phenomenally.
Phenomenally. Yes, whatever that word. I can't go out there and do.
You can't do it so good.
I can't do it so good no more. No. But yeah. So and she just turned around and went, I don't care. I don't really care. And I thought to myself, well, you should care, because our whole point of working on board this ship is making sure those guests have the best time of their entire lives. Mm-hmm. Some guests have never been on holiday before. They've never been on vacation. They've saved up their money to come on this cruise, and you're turning around to me and saying, because I'm not going to be doing my job 100%, you don't care? No, okay. All right, fair enough. If that's how you go, Mm-hmm. And I can remember one cruise director pulled me aside once and went, stop doing that. You're making me look bad. And I went, how do you mean? So, well, I'm not doing stuff like that. And that's, I should be doing stuff like that. And I went, well, like, I'm just doing my job.
It's okay for me to take my toys out of the pram, but it's not okay for you because you're under me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, weird, isn't it? Weird.
That is weird.
Very strange people sometimes.
Well, egos are fragile things on board,
Egos are massively. People get threatened so easily.
Especially in entertainment, because it's
entertainment, yeah.
He's got more microphone time than me. Her introduction was better.
I couldn't give a shit. Honestly, I sit there and go, I'm here to provide entertainment to these guests, and I will shove $2,000 worth of entertainment down your mouth if you need me to.
Hello, sailor.
Because they're
how do you quantify that?
Yeah, well, I think about, because if
you're charging for extras.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm spending money on something, I expect to have it. You know what I mean? And I felt that light entertainment, especially on board these ships, is dying. They don't care about it anymore. They're not fussed. They don't care who delivers it. Yeah, no, massively. The biggest reason of why I don't want to go back to a massive company like that is the ships are getting bigger. All they really care about is the production, the big the things like, and I love it. I love the Broadway shows on board. I love the review shows on board. I love the whatever fancy robotic shows they've got on board. They're incredible. However, they're only on, once or twice in the evenings. What happens the rest of the time, And I just think they don't care. Yeah, well, bingo. Well, when we're at sea, bingo, yes, but we're at port days and things like that. I just don't think they put a lot of care and thought into the material that they provide the ship with to do those kind of things. I had to make my own game shows. I had to make Who Wants to Be a Millionaire versions for the ships because
on
PowerPoint. Well, I started getting a bit clever, you see, and then I actually had one. He still works for the company. He's an activities manager now, and I'm just going to put this into context. I don't blame any ship staff on board for any of that. The tools aren't there in order to do the job. You can't do the job without the necessary tools, and I think there should be a template for every single game show, whether or not you add your own questions in, but it should be a good looking template.
Yeah.
Like when I started doing guest entertaining and going on other companies' cruise ships and seeing what they did compared to my company that I had been doing it with, it was phenomenal because I said the word. They had, how would you say, they had actually gone professional, had it professionally designed. So it looked like a great game show or it looked like a great activity. But the problem is when you're not allowed to use colour printing because it's going to cost the company too much money, and you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, and you think to yourself, well, these guests are paying a fortune to be here, and we're turning around and saying, we've run out of pencils, so you need to go and find a pen, pop to guest services and ask them for a pen because they didn't put an order in for the pencils because they're not allowed to because we spent too much money. I was on Amazon ordering golf pencils. I still go on my Amazon and it goes buy again. I'm like, no, I don't need 500 golf pencils now. Don't need them. But to the point where it was like it was a game of everybody gets a box of pencils and whoever has the box of pencils for the longest, whoever keeps the most pencils wins a prize. That's not motivation.
And what is the prize? A company branded pencil?
No, you got another box of pencils.
Yeah.
And you're allowed 20 sheets of colour in the printer as well, probably, because that used to wind me up. Like, we got no paper. What do you mean we've got no paper? We need to put an order in, but it'll take us. Bearing in mind, you live and work on board the ship. We're going to order it now, but you won't be able to have it till tomorrow because it's going to be approved by 3 people before you can walk downstairs and pick up a box of paper.
Right. Yeah. So for now, just remember your answers in your head and answer honestly. And when we go back through the answers, just be honest. Yes, that is the answer I came up with at the right time. I'm not just saying this answer because that person over there said it. Be honest. Oh God, like that was the straw that brought the camel's back in a sense. Like, I know it wasn't pencils. I didn't leave the company. I didn't leave the company because of pencils. I left because I just felt I wasn't getting anywhere. I wasn't. And I knew I wasn't. I was so interested in doing something else. I got to the point where I was so interested in wanting to do something else that took over my mind, really. And I just thought, no, I'm not going to go back. I don't want to go back. I like living in my house with my own things, being able to go and eat whatever I like when I want, not having to eat, mystery meat and rice for dinner. If I want to go to Tesco, I can go to Tesco. I can sleep in my own double bed. I've not got somebody else in the room with me, for example, or anything like that. It's mad, isn't it? Well, you have tonight.
Well, no, I have to tonight because it's my colleague, but it's and the company won't buy us to. But so it's mad. I do think there was a photo that came up on the crew bar page on Facebook. There was a photo that came up of pictures of different prisons around the world, and each cell looked better than any of the rooms I've ever had on a cruise ship. And I just thought to myself, you've got to really want to do it. if you're prepared to stay in those conditions for that amount of time. And I got to the point where I was on an older ship on my last contract I did with Royal, and there was mould everywhere in the room. The carpets looked like they'd never been. Because the thing is, with a lot of companies, when you leave, they send in the cleaners after and clean the room, yeah? Or they send in the housekeeper to clean the room. No, it's all up to you. You have to, then the manager has to come and sign off that room and say, yeah, it's clean. But the manager don't really care. They don't really give a shit. Like, it's 6:00 in the morning, you're meant to be leaving the ship. They just tick the box and go, yeah, it looks fine, you know, your roommate's sleeping or whatever. I mean, I had it cushy on a lot of ships where I had my own room, but, you know, on the older ships, you don't have that luxury because they haven't got the cabins. So I did have to live with somebody that was, their nickname was Happy. Youth staff nickname was Happy. They weren't happy. They were not a happy person at all.
Ironically, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was
their name. It was their ironic nickname.
Well, their actual name, I thought their name was FNU, because you know when they come from different countries, their first name unknown is on the register kind of thing. So when I used to look on, like, see who was moving into the room, because like my roommate had left, they finished the contract, and so I had a look at it, just came up with FNU, and I went, FNU, okay, nice. So when I met him,
how you spelling that?
FNU.
Oh, okay.
First name unknown. Yeah.
Right.
And so I just thought his name was FNU, and yeah.
FNU.
3 months of me calling him FNU or Happy, and he clearly wasn't happy. Never happy.
But he was one of the youth staff.
He was one of the youth staff. Yeah, he looks after your children. Scary, that. I had a great one, though. My favourite, here's a fun one for you. My favourite ever roommate, it was on my first ship with Royal, and it was when I first got on board. His name was Yevgen, and he was from Ukraine. I still keep in touch with him today. Lovely, lovely man. But he had a big scar down his cheek, and he just looked scary, you know? And he had the accent, I'm here to look after your children. You know,
he was a kid's host.
Yeah, he was like, yeah. And I used to think to myself, God, I would have been shit scared of being dropped off there as a kid. But he was really good. If I'd walked past Adventure Ocean and he'd be hosting something, or if he was doing a teen activity, he'd be really, really, really good. Complete polar opposite to how he was in the room when he had his, you know, 4 little stubby bottles of Red Stripe and just shouting at his wife on the phone on FaceTime. But it was mad. It just, it always, you know, never judge a book by its cover, if you get what I mean in that sense. That's the thing. I mean, we had on board. This is a good one for. We had because you occasionally get celebrities, yeah. So we were on Navigator going out of LA, and the lead singer of Imagine Dragons is on board.
Imagine Dragons. What's their song? Songs, I should say. Put you on the spot there.
You make me
Oh yeah. That one.
I think that's one of them. They did loads. So he was on board, and the guests were like, have you seen who's on board? Who's on board? Have you seen who's on board? I was like, don't really have a clue. I mean, I've heard the music, but I couldn't tell you who he was if I'd bumped into him.
Right.
And he had a little joke with somebody in the Viking Crown Lounge right at the top of the ship, one of the waiters. I went, I want to come to your crew bar. And the waiter was like, nah, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. You can't. You're not allowed to. Like that's not, you know. So he went, no, I will. I'll bet you $50 that I'm going to come to your crew bar. Anyway, apparently he'd had a talk with the hotel director. Next minute, a gig's been planned for all the crew with the lead singer of Imagine Dragons. I've got the full video on this phone, actually. And it was mad. I've never seen a crew bar so full. I don't think the guests... we were told not to tell the guests. It was the hotel director actually made a crew announcement telling us all about it. It was like, you do not tell guests. We do not tell guests. Because we didn't want the guests then trying to find the crew bar and come to the crew bar. Because it was back deck. It's a big space. But we still don't want guests there. And he came down, security brought him down. He did his show, he did his set. It was really, really good. He then went back up and carried on drinking and being a guest. But
he was as a guest. He wasn't on to perform.
No, it wasn't on this. I think they'd book him to perform. They've got that budget. Can't afford me.
Yeah, he wasn't on with his band. He was on by himself.
No, he was on with his family. Yeah, it was just on with his family.
How did he perform to the crew? Did he have a guitar?
We gave him a guitar. We found him a guitar. In fact, that guitar is now signed and in the crew bar of Navigator of the Seas. So if there's any crew members on Navigator of the Seas, and there is a photo, I think, with it happening. It was the HR specialist, Paul, who just went, no, we've got to sign our guitar, because it was the crew guitar that we used for like bandioki nights or whatever. But they had to go and buy a new guitar because it had been signed and they put it into a frame. So that buggered up the budget for a little bit. You know, we couldn't have any competitions that month. No PlayStation 5s to give away.
Oh, no.
So, I never got that as well when they used to give away games consoles or something silly like that as a crew prize in the raffle.
Where are you going to play it?
Where are you going to play it? Like on that tiny screen in your room?
It's not worth it.
How are you going to take it home? You know? Like,
send it air freight?
Yeah, but then you get charged customs, don't you?
That probably costs you as much as the PlayStation.
Yeah. That's the problem, isn't it? Then you got a foreign plug.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a first world problem thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the highlights. Imagine Dragons on board. We've had other people.
What about charters?
Charters, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you were ahead of me there. Charter cruises. You asked
that just to make it nicer for your editor. You can do that again and go, what about charters? I mean,
we kind of almost cut each other off. As I said,
no, I know. That's what I mean. Do you want to do it again so we don't cut each other off?
I want people to think, look, Sam, he's clocked in, you see.
People, he's actually got a brain. Yeah. He's written that book, though, the one we haven't read.
Not yet. They can listen to it instead. Side note, seems like Smooth Sailing is now available on Audible. End of side note.
Charters are great. I think they're one of the coolest things in the world. I mean, I would love. That would be probably something that I'd look into one day. Probably creating charters, because there's so many now. It's ridiculous. They've just done a Comic-Con one, but I did the 80s cruise. I did the Star Trek cruise. Now the Star Trek cruise, it was the craziest thing ever. I'll tell you what. I'm not a Star Trek fan. Well, I don't mind it. Yeah, I've seen a bits and pieces.
Yeah, same.
But I wouldn't call myself a fan. However, the effort these people put into it is unbelievable. Unbelievable. There were people with full-on prosthetics that they kept on the whole 3-day cruise, to the point where they weren't allowed off in the ports because they looked nothing like their ID photo. And they didn't want to take the prosthetics off because it took them so long to do.
Oh my God!
And they were getting it takes so because
they stayed in character for the whole cruise.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
That's commitment.
People staying in character. There were some great ones though, because people didn't just dress up as Star Trek. They dressed up as all sort of sci-fi stuff as well. So you got the odds, Dalek wandering around, or you had like a Conehead
on a cruise.
Yeah.
I did see on your Instagram a picture of you as some Coneheads.
Yeah, because I just thought that was incredible. I mean, how'd you do that? Where did you get the prosthetics for that? So
I actually watched that film for the first time just the other week, and I told my friends, I said, "Oh, I'm just watching Coneheads," and they were like, "Well, for the millionth time." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" No, this is the first time I've watched it, and they said, "Shut up, Sam. We've seen that film loads of times. I remember watching that for the first time at your house when I was a child," and I was like, "No, mate. I would know if I've seen this film straight away." I'm like, "How?" They said it's like the most you type of film I can think of.
Would you say have you seen it now?
No, I've seen it now, but just like in terms of the cast and the people that are in it, there's loads of like good cameos and stuff. So I watched it, but they didn't believe me. They said this is like the biggest stitch up. Like, well, are you holding some joke back, like some private joke that we don't know about? On my deathbed, I'll reveal the big joke that I had actually seen it, and you'll come up to the coffin, and I'll be dressed as a conehead. I would like to have done that over the Star Trek cruise, but do you reckon?
Yeah,
because some celebrities they charter their own ship.
So I mean, the Star Trek cruise. We had William Shatner on board that year.
For the Star Trek
for the Star Trek cruise. Yeah. Now, bless him, he's in his 90s, nearly 100, but he was on a mobility scooter. Absolutely having a whale of a time. He loved it. Absolutely adored it. He had a great time on board as being a guest. And then they give like a flyer with how much they cost, like each celebrity costs for an autograph and a photo.
Oh, right.
And you're looking at how many guests are on board. And of course, people want to see William Shatner and all that. So they're paying 250 quid
for a picture?
For an autograph. No, for an autograph. Then it's 220 for the photo.
Oh, wait, so you're buying like £400?
Yeah.
Quid, dollars, whatever.
But people would buy them for every single celebrity that was on board. And you've got like 20 to 30 cast members from Star Trek over the years on board, and people are buying them all, or they'll come next year and buy, if someone's going to be on board again. And I just think, how much money were they making from?
Well, there's that. That's the first question, but also, who's coming up with these prices?
Well, I actually decided that at that moment I want to star in one episode of Star Trek.
Yes, please.
Just so I can go on that cruise. Even if I'm just charging $10 to sign something, I'll do that. I will do that.
I went to the Comic-Con the year before last, I think, with a friend. It wasn't the Comic-Con. It was another one that had mostly like traders of like merch at this thing. But they still had like a few pop-up places where there were people sitting at their tables and signing things, and then off to the side there was one that was kind of closed off behind a screen that you had to pay for to go in, and it was like with Kit Harington and somebody else, I can't remember who, but there was like people who were sitting down. I remember the guy who played Palpatine in Star Wars. Do it, that guy.
Pretty good, that.
Thank you. I channeled my inner Palpatine. But he was there, just sitting like no one queuing. And then at one point I'm walking around, I see the tallest guy signing a picture of General Snoke. He was like the most pointless villain in the newer ones.
Mad, isn't it?
Who's going up to these people like, oh, I loved you and your portrayal?
But I never got it with like the guy who was inside the Darth Vader suit, because it was not his voice, was it? It was it
Proust something?
He died last year, didn't he? Bless him. There are going to be people listening to this and go, I can't believe he doesn't know who did the voice of Star Wars. He was also
James L. Jones did the voice.
James L. Jones, there you go. I get that. I get people meeting him, but the person that was in Darth Vader costume, well, he was in the costume. You never actually saw him. Like,
David
and it wasn't his. There you go. It wasn't even his voice.
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, never got that. Why are you queuing to see that? And also, it's like there was on the Star Trek cruise, like you see the actor who would normally be an alien in the show, but they're just a normal person, and you just go, oh, can't you dress up as the person? I would be more excited if these people would dress as their characters. I mean, they've got older now and they don't look, like,
because I'm just thinking, like you said some of the fans were dressed up for 3 days in prosthetics. Some of them probably look way better than the people that they were going to meet.
Have you ever watched The Big Bang Theory?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is one of my guest complaints from that cruise that I received. I thought these three lads were dressed up as people from The Big Bang Theory, like Sheldon and that.
Yeah.
No, that was just them. I'd insult them in a lot, because we had to do crowd control. So when the charters take over, we don't really do much other than if the charter requires us to do it. Like, we did crowd control, which was really cool. So I'd stand there and be like,
but it was very easy to do crowd control for those people.
Yeah, and it was also mad the things that people would bring them to sign. Like, it'd be like somebody would come out with like, I made a replica of the sword that you once used in this like 25 years ago, but I can only bring the handle with me. I've managed to detach it because I can't bring it on the ship, or something silly like someone brings out like a whole display case of stuff for this person to sign, and like they bring their own pens because they want it in certain colour pens, so it's all colour. It's mad. But the 80s charter, that's an incredible one. The music charters, I think, is my dream charters. Like the 80s, we had Cyndi Lauper on board. Incredible, we're the kids in America.
When was that? When was that?
That was so. What they do is it's run by the same company. So the first week you've got Star Trek, the next week you've got the 80s cruise.
Oh.
So it's the same company. They just change the props around and the scenery on board. Because like they'll stick things in the elevators to make it look like you're on the Starship Enterprise, for example, and things like that. But the 80s cruise was more about Rubik's Cubes and E.T. and all these like different bits. They had a scare zone as well, which they tried to get us to do, and all sorts of bits and pieces. But the music cruises, the acts, we had Devo on board.
Devo?
Yeah. Crack that whip. Yeah, we had Cutting Crew, and they're from the UK. That was really mad. And I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight.
Yeah.
Mad.
Hidden gems.
Last time I saw them, they were in like the local social club down the road from me. So It was
Well,
really good.
everything goes full circle.
Yeah.
They have their rise, they go on ships, and then they come back.
Yeah, no,
Or is the
exactly.
ships on the way down? I guess I don't know.
No, I'd never say that.
No, no, no.
Do you know what? I think that's one thing that really upsets me is
Okay.
probably when someone like Simon Cowell, for example, would say, "You sound like a cruise ship singer," or "You sound like a cruise ship." It's
What does
awful.
he know?
That's what? No, exactly. There are people on these ships that have made it massive, like made it massive in their own rights. You know,
I couldn't. Yeah.
there's people that have gone on, like they've started in the shows on board, and now they're on the West End every night. They're on Broadway every night. They are living the life. They're having a great time. You know, there are people that have come to cruise ships. They get, who get paid very handsomely to be in the Broadway shows on board and the fancy shows. I mean, there's some incredible talent. I mean, Anthem of the Seas always, for me, was probably the highlight of talent on board a cruise ship. It was ridiculous because you've got the We Will Rock You cast on board. You've got half of them who have done the show before with Royal Caribbean. You've got the other half that have been in the show before somewhere else, because this was after the pandemic. See, Amanda and Daryl, they're a couple. He was playing Brit, I think it's Brit, and she was playing Scaramouche. Unbelievable. I mean, they're now touring in Only Fools and Horses, the musical, around the UK. Incredible. Kevin Kennedy, Curly Watts from Coronation Street, was playing Pop in We Will Rock You. I saw him the other week because he came to a show in my hometown, and I was like, do you want to come and grab a quick soft drink afterwards? And he was like, yeah, it's all cool. But the talent was immense. Terry Lavelle. If you ever do get a chance to go on a cruise, and listeners as well, if they want to go on a Royal Caribbean cruise and they choose Anthem of the Seas, Spectra's Cabaret, Terry Lavelle, who plays Spectra, he is the most incredible performer you'll ever see in your entire life. First of all, you look at him and you go, you're a star. He's like 7 foot tall, and he calls himself the body that books. Quite clearly, yeah. And he's amazing.
He calls himself
such a talent. I believe so, yeah.
The body that
books, I believe that's what he calls it. Yeah, the body that book. If he hears this, he might get really angry because that might be wrong.
That might be wrong. That's speculation.
He's played the body that books. I swear it's the body that books. But he's been in all sorts, like Kinky Boots and things like that. The shows.
Let me ask you this though, because like you said, you find it offensive to think that Simon Cowell could say, "Oh, you sound like a cruise ship singer," but what about like when a guest comes up to you and says, "Oh, you're really good. You should go on X Factor." Do you find that offensive?
Well, there you go. Yes. I would never do it. And the reason why is because I work in that industry now. So it's a case of I know it's TV. It makes TV. We're making TV. That kind of thing is your
backstory not deep enough? Is it?
No, I haven't got a sob story. You're quite
a happy guy. You got a good story.
Yeah,
so they can't dramatize you.
All my fish died, and they told me that I was the best singer they'd ever heard. So no.
Yeah, it is.
I'll tell you what, it makes TV, and that's what's beautiful about it. I mean, TV's dying anyway nowadays, sadly. I mean, the rise of the podcast, it's coming back. It's amazing how the podcast has suddenly, all of a sudden, had the past couple of years have just gone shoo like that. Because there was a time where podcast was big, and then it just disappeared, it fizzled out, and now it's sort of on the up and up, and it's coming back, which is amazing. Because I love podcasts, I love listening to them, and if I got a chance to watch them, I will watch them. But I'm a listener more than a watcher because I like to do things whilst listening.
Well, yeah. Just for your reference, like my bread and butter is handyman stuff.
Oh.
So I mean, it's not like I chose that. Going from being an entertainer, believe me, it was just a thing at the time that I was doing to keep money coming in.
Yeah. That's another thing as well, is that you'd meet those people on board in your team that didn't actually want to be an entertainer. They didn't. Well, I call it loosely entertainer now because you don't do much entertaining, as we discussed earlier. The light entertainment thing sort of died. But you meet people that don't actually want to be there. They've just done it because it's a job, whereas I wanted to be there. I really wanted to be there. My dream was to be a cruise director on board Royal Caribbean. And I managed to do it for 2 weeks when the cruise director was COVID. So I was like, yeah, brilliant. Not the job that I thought it was going to be. So, yeah, that's life. That is.
But I did want to be there as well, just for your records.
Yes. Yeah, well, a lot of people didn't, A lot of people, you meet some people along the way and they just go, I do this because it's a job. I found this job and I thought I'd do it for a job. They're the ones that got promoted, you know what I mean? That was good. You know, when they used to do crisis stuff for the firefighters on board for the drills, and they'd just be like, right, we're making a scenario. So they'd fill the theatre with smoke, and then a load of people just lie down and they have to try and evacuate people, the medical team and stuff like that. That was good fun. I always loved drills, you know. Like, I loved the STCW as well. You know, when you had to do that to go on board. I just loved doing like the firefighting and
the training courses and stuff.
Yeah. Honestly, even if you're not planning on going on a cruise ship, I learned so much.
Just go and do some training.
Yeah, genuinely, just go and do it. Like, they throw a raft in. You know, we were in a quarry. I went to Southwest Maritime Academy. It was incredible, insane. Great, like, week-long course. And they're all professionals. Really, really cool. They've got fire engines. They've got these big containers that they set on fire. You know, you've got to put them out with the proper hoses. You've got all the equipment on. You know, you're living the kid's dream, you know what I mean? It was like, for me, I was like, that's really cool. Because I could never be a firefighter because of my vision. So it was just, I'm living my dream there.
We had this guy on one of our trainings, and he was teaching us how to, like, pull the pin on the extinguisher and then fire at the base of the fire and all of this stuff. And you know, when he gave us our chance to step back and do it ourselves, one guy kind of came up to the extinguisher and froze, and he's miming, like, at the guy who's not doing anything. You know, pull the pin out, you know, like a grenade, and then the guy pulled the pin out.
No.
And then he threw the extinguisher.
No. Love it. I love that, though.
Yeah.
I love that. And those silly things do happen on board. They do. You look at I've watched safety officers lose their crap. You know, you had Mark Tiffin on. I've watched him speak. Just have to turn around to people and go, "How long have you been doing this now for?" Like, that's scary. If you've got the suits on the wrong way around, mate, your arms are going through, you know. You've got your firefighter suit on, you put your arms through the leg holes, you know, like, this ain't good, is it? No.
God.
So, yeah. I mean,
Mark was good fun. I enjoyed talking with Mark.
Yeah, he's a great lad. He's
He's on ship now. He's just, followed him.
Yeah, he's taking over one of the P&O Australia ships. It's absolute tip. I've seen photos of it. He sent me some photos. They're gonna do what I call the TUI. They're gonna put some paint on the walls and just say, "Yeah, it's ready, brand new ship." That's what they did. They branded it as like our brand new ship for 2018 or something like that. Like, the ship's 30 years old.
They just paint over the rust. They do a new christening ceremony.
Yeah, new christening ceremony. Paint over the rust. Peel off the old Crown and Anchors or Celebrity Cruises logos and just go with it. But, you know, nice. And if you're lucky, they'll even carpet your crew room. And me and my friend TJ on that ship, we ended up having the Broadway show lounge carpet in our room, and we felt quite bougie. And also because they were throwing loads of stuff away from the previous owners of the ship. We had a lovely coffee table in our room, 2 lovely chairs, kettles, all the stuff that's against the rules, you know, and things like that. And then we had duvets for one cruise before housekeeping took them off us because they didn't think we are good enough for duvets.
Oh yeah, no, that's officer stuff. That is.
Yeah. No, you get the scratchy blanket. You get scratchy blanket. You don't get duvet.
Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are?
How do you pronounce your surname? Just so I've got it.
Betterly.
Okay,
but I prefer just call me Andy Elton.
Is that what you go by?
Yeah, that is purely what I go by. That is a stage name that's stuck, my friend.
Okay. Well,
it's these glasses. I've always worn them, so
for good reason. Yeah.
I'm colourblind. Can't see colour.
Can you not?
No. So my medical used to always have not fit for watch duties. Perfect. I don't need to do those. I don't want to do those.
You couldn't do whale watch even if you wanted to.
No, I couldn't even do it. You can't be on fog watch. Not at all. Not at all.
Speaking of fog watch and how that is obviously a piss take, did you have any scary moments on board during your time?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, there's been a couple. Nothing major, but yeah, there's been. I can remember a massive fight breaking out on board in the middle of like the atrium or whatever they called it, promenade or whatever, and it was just like, holy shit, this is serious. Like, yeah, we're talking a proper brawl. Like these two big families just absolutely started get like in front of guest services. It went mad, and you're just like, I'm stood there because I'm meant to be on doors for the venue that's literally right there. I'm like, what do I do in this situation? They're coming over and I'm going, nothing, and it's even the security, because what can security really do? They're not really allowed to do much to them,
Well, they've got no weapons.
Well, yeah, they don't have weapons, do they?
They are. Their hands are registered weapons. Most of these guys from the
it's mad, isn't it? When you speak to security on board and you find out what they used to do, it's like, I used to be an ex-SWAT officer, in this country. Like, oh, right, okay, yeah. I was in the military for 20 years, and this is what I do now. You're like, oh, okay. Amazing. Now there was a sports staff on board who used to be like an armed response guy, and I thought, why have you gone from that to like teaching people how to like surf on one of these flow rider things?
I need to get some of these guys on the podcast.
I could try and get you in touch with some of these interesting people. Yeah,
I mean that's the business model. Referrals for every person. Mark gave me you, and hopefully you can give me somebody else. I do need women. That sounded creepy and desperate.
No, I get you. Do you know what? Funny enough, I had a meeting earlier today for something that we're working on, and the main question was, "You need more women." I went, "Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. The background scenes, for example, is too male orientated, but if that's who answers the call for extras as such, that's what happens, unfortunately."
I had a really unfortunate one the other day where I say unfortunate, it was just annoying, right? Because she had all these cool stories, and she'd basically told me over the phone that whatever you've heard about P. Diddy at sea on these private yachts is basically true, because she worked on yachts and cruise ships and stuff as well. I was like, great, tell me on the podcast. And she was like, no, I can't. And I said, oh.
Where's she from with that accent?
She was American. She had the sass.
Okay, that sounded like borderline Slovenian.
Well, she had the drawl, shall we say?
Okay,
but yeah, she wouldn't come on, and I said, you can have anonymity. You don't have to be on camera. You can use an avatar. You change your name, pseudonym, and all the rest of it. But
you got to be careful. And even I'm trying to be very careful, just in case, for whatever reason, my life hits the fan and I need to go back. But I do want to go back, but I want a different challenge. I don't want a big mega ship anymore.
So you miss the ships because you want to go back.
I do and I don't. I do miss the ships. I miss the travelling.
Yeah.
I miss the meeting new people. When you worked on a cruise ship and people go, what do you do? They always go, wow, they've got so many questions. They go, what's your favourite part? My favourite part was the other people that I'd work with, most of the time, or the other people on board the ship. Because you imagine, where else in the world can you sit and eat your dinner, rice and mystery meat, with 4 people on that table, and you all live 10,000 miles away from each other? You know what I mean? You're all from completely different backgrounds, completely different religions, and you all just get on. You're all there for one reason. Every crew member is on board that ship for one reason. That's to work and to make money to either send home or, to better your life. You're all in the same boat, famous saying. Yeah. You're all in the same boat,
It's hard to be.
And it's true. I just miss hearing people's backgrounds, the stories, their lives, that kind of thing. Really, really good. And if I were to go back, and people have said, like, would you go back and do? And I said, no, I'd probably work in HR. Actually go and do something like that.
HR? I want to hear all the ridiculous requests and stuff.
Oh, no, I've heard all those anyway. I had a good friend who's a HR manager, and she's probably going to be listening to this anyway, but I can't say too much. But I've heard most of the ridiculous ideas. No, I would go in because I like looking after people. I do like looking after people, and I think a lot of people that work in HR aren't the happiest people in the world. And I think I could change that. I think I can make people's lives a bit happier, and also want to prove that it's not all about the company. Yes, HR does work for the company. The company is, but there are ways and means of being good HR compared to bad HR. We're not going to go into that. I don't want to upset my friend.
You could do HR with an Elton John twist.
Yeah, exactly. You imagine me in sequins. 3.5 stripes, but sequins. Like, mate, you're looking at... That's the best executive committee you'll ever got, you know what I mean? If I could choose my dream executive committee, I would, for a ship. Those 4 people do have a massive impact on the rest of the ship, and people don't really realise, your captain, your staff captain, HR manager, and the hotel director, they do have a big... Oh, no, is it staff captain?
Cruise director.
I think Staffy is, yeah. It's either Staffy or chief engineer. No, Staffy or chief engineer. Executive committee don't bother putting the cruise director in because that's just, they're just wannabe shopping channel hosts. QVCs.
Very good. Very good.
Lots of them were.
Yeah.
They really are.
That's a very sweeping statement.
If you ever watch, I've got videos of when I had to do the morning shows because I had to cover CD quite a lot. I did a 2-week stint when Mike got ill on content, which was it was good fun. And that's a scary moment for you. Going back to that, because we came off tangent really easily. I'm so sorry about that.
That's all right.
I got a call in the morning saying, hello, Andy, you are now the newest cruise director of the fleet. From the cruise director, he went, me and Neil, who was the activities manager, they've all gone down from COVID, close contacts and COVID. They were tested positive. And I was like, okay, right, what do I do here? And we're in Sitka, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this noise happens. Big bang. Electricity goes off on the ship. What the hell is happening? They even moved the people in quarantine. There's a real fire, and you hear the code word, and you go, shit a brick. This is happening. This is actually happening. We'd just done a drill that day as well. So the bridge officer, and we used to call her Lady Bridge because she was... I'm not even sworn in. I was standing on front deck and I was heavily smoking at the time because of the stress. I was standing on the front deck of Quantum, and the travelling sports manager was on board, Jal, who's now cruise director for Princess. But he was, I was trying to get advice off him because paperwork stuff, I had no clue anything about what back office was like. So I was like, you do that, I'll do the face, I'll do the speaking part. And we did. And it was, that's when we got the Bravo happen. And scariest time ever because I had to go on stage that night and explain what had happened. The captain had made a little announcement after it all. So don't worry, everything's okay. One of our engines has decided not to turn on. Code word for the engine had blown up, and somewhere there is a photo of like a piston that had gone through something or whatever. Oh, it was mad. It looked horrendous, and it meant that we couldn't go to we couldn't go to Juneau because we didn't have enough power or speed to get us there in time for any of it. So all in one day, I've told the guests they can't see a glacier, the ship's blown up, and we're not going to be able to go to Juneau. And that's my job to do it. Like, why can't... I remember the hotel director at the time, and I went, well, the hotel director can't be seen in the bad lights. And I went, what? I can! I've been thrown into this. This is ridiculous. That was the most stressful week of my entire life.
You're the fall guy, mate.
That cruise. The guests hated me. They hated me because it was like I was the one telling them they couldn't go and see this glacier. It's like, we've reached as far as we can go down the Endicott Arm. There's too much ice. Remember what happened with the Titanic? We're going to do a quick 360. The captain's very kindly said he's going to do a 360. He didn't. He just did a 180 and then cruised out. So I'd lied about that, apparently. Which is like, well, I'm just reading the script that I've got in front of me that's printed in jumbo font because one of the cruise directors on board the ship was also legally blind. So, it was just, I felt like the fall guy. I did. I felt like the fall guy on many occasions on ships when it's just...
Is it the harbinger or the harbinger of doom?
I don't know. I don't know what you're even saying there.
Harbinger? Yeah, harbinger of doom.
Harbinger of doom. Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom.
Harbinger. You know what? It doesn't matter. You were the guy that...
Humdinger. Humdinger, do you mean? Humdinger? I don't know. I was the guy who they just put in that position and gone, I reckon that they knew that shit was going to blow up. No, it was one of those. That was scary.
Okay, just because I am unable to not know. Harbinger, a person or thing that announces or signals the approach of another.
Harbinger.
Harbinger, yeah.
Harbinger.
Harbinger.
Oh, that's fancy. Do you get it to speak to you?
What, Google? Yeah.
Oh.
There's a little icon. And if you want, you can get it to say it in syllables. So listen to this. I can get it to do it slowly.
Harbinger.
Harbinger, and I can get it to slow it down.
Harbinger.
I like that. That's good. That's like,
good.
when you used to learn like languages.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that.
We've got some more questions.
Give us another question because I feel like that was a really good story, but I felt like I came about it too weak.
Don't worry about it. That's what the edit's for.
No, I know, but for me,
I see. Oh, you mean the story and that you came into your role really weak.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
No. I came in. I know. I came. No, I said. I said it made me come across like you know, going that from that call in the morning. I think there was too much going on in that. Anyway, move on.
Shall I kick you while you're down and ask you what was your most embarrassing moment?
Yeah, go for it.
What was your most embarrassing?
Most embarrassing moment. My first ever real guest entertainer show.
Oh.
Like my first proper one where I was contracted to actually do that as the job. It was Sky Princess, and it was in the Norwegian fjords. And I'd literally, a week before, I'd come back from Quantum. This is how quickly it went. It went from doing it free for Royal Caribbean every single week of that entire contract, which, you know, to the point where I screenshotted every single time it was in like the compass and stuff, because I wanted that as proof that I'd done that. They never said thank you. That's okay. I did it for love. So I came back a week later. I was flying to Norway to do this thing. So I had like 4 different flights: Birmingham, Amsterdam to Oslo to somewhere, and then that place to like somewhere in the fjords, Trosmo or Trondheim or something like that. Wherever it was, I flew on a plane that had propellers and about 6 seats to get there. And when we landed, they went, right, get your bags. Oh, I have to get my own bags off the plane. Yeah, get your bags. My bags aren't there. My bags weren't there, which had all my charts and all my costumes, my in-ear monitors, everything that I would use on stage. Absolutely everything. It's my first time as well, you know, doing it. And I was told by my agent, don't tell the cruise line, or don't tell the ship it's your first time doing this in a way. You've done all the shows, you know, for months and months and months, you know. And I went on and did probably the worst performances of my entire life. And I knew precisely then that I would never go back to Princess. Half their band was down because of COVID as well. And I wasn't allowed to mention it on stage. Just to let you know, I've got no luggage. I've had to go and buy a suit in Norway and trying to find some glasses to make myself look a bit like Elton John. But the piano player that does some of the piano behind me isn't actually the piano player. The drummer is a percussionist. That person over there does guitar. He plays the spoons in the crew bar. That guy actually over there, we don't know where he's from. He just so happens to have a ukulele. I've got no charts for ukulele, but he's going to play them. Yeah. But no, it was the worst. I've never felt so embarrassed. I went back to that cabin and I never came out of that guest cabin for the rest of the 2 days I was on board that ship.
Oh, was it that bad?
They made me go and do another show, actually. So I did two normal shows in the evening, and the first one was shit. So my in-ear pack, the channel had changed. It hadn't locked the pack. So like my clothes had pushed a button and it had changed the channel. So I wasn't getting any audio. I asked to have some monitors on stage. They didn't put the monitors on stage. So I couldn't hear myself for a couple of songs whilst they were running around trying to sort out a pack. And it was so, I would just wanted to walk off stage like midway through that show. I came back to the second show, which went a little bit better. And then I had to do a split show with somebody I'd worked with previously on another ship. And that, you know, I just did 4 songs and then they came on and did something else. And it was horrible. And I remember going home and just thinking, I'm never going to do that again, never going to do that again. But I did. And I carried on and I did really well with it. And then, I went back to do another contract with Royal after that because work slowed up, because these guest entertainer jobs, you look at a lot of cruise ships and cruise lines, they use the same people over and over and over again, like Las Vegas tenors. Incredible acts, but they're on every ship you go to, you'll see them, you know, or same comedians and stuff like that. They're all incredible people. They are incredible acts, and I was so lucky to have the opportunity to do it because people work their arse off to get to that level. Yeah. And I felt like I did, and I didn't. I felt like I lucked out. I was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, your first show was your most embarrassing show
as a guest
entertainer. But was it also your worst, show from hell ever, right? Like you couldn't top that.
Oh, yeah. No, that was show from hell.
Yeah, okay. So you answered 2 questions in one there.
Well, no, well, it depends. I've had bad ones. I've had a loud Scottish lady shout, "Sing back in there! Back in there!" I'm Elton John. I'm not Rod Stewart, love. Not Rod Stewart. Like, that's next week, you know. Like, and she wouldn't stop. After every song.
Sing like, Piano Man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like shouting "Sing" like Piano Man at fucking Elton John. He's not going to do it, is he?
No.
But you know, so So I started singing Maggie May, and
Oh,
You're
man. Do you know
entitled.
what? You said about liking the idea of going to work in HR because you like to help people and stuff. But you know what? I always ask this. What were some of the most ridiculous complaints, requests, and things that you've heard over the years? Because these will always make me laugh. And some people have different ones
Well,
you've never heard.
the thing is with them is that you'll hear these and you'll go, I've heard them before, but they are ones, they are like frequently asked questions, that come up like. You'll be this is another reason why I had to stop doing the job, was because they would make you do weird duties that have nothing to do with your department or anything. Like, for example, our jobs was to stand on guest services to stop there being too big of a line. So to answer some of the basic questions, you had an iPad that would be like, you want an extra pillow, you've got this because you need to have an oxygen mask to be able to sleep. You've got 2 mobility scooters, you need 7 chargers for them, things like that kind of thing. But at the same time, you get these guests that would come down in absolute mood going, oh my God, oh my God, we have booked a balcony cabin and we can't see the sea.
Yeah.
All we can see is the car park. And you're like, oh, sorry, not car park, parking lot.
Parking lot, yeah.
And you'd sit there and you'd just go, are these people, how did you make the money in order to come on this cruise? Because something doesn't add up here. If you're that stupid, then something don't add up here. And the problem is, me being like that, I get myself into trouble sometimes because I couldn't. There's one thing I can't stand, and it's a really stupid question. And I think, that would set me off. It'd be like weird things like that. So how do we get anywhere? Well, we move. Yeah, but how? How does it work? Like there's big propellers.
Yeah. And
they spin and it pushes us forward. It's amazing, honestly. Oh my God, wow. Weird things like that. I've had if you want to know something that I've seen, that I've witnessed.
Yes.
I've watched a lady poo in a bag in the
on
middle.
A ship.
Yeah. In the middle of a show.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You were performing.
No, I wasn't performing that one. Oh no, I was. I was performing. Because I remember getting off stage. And
were you that bad?
No, no. I don't think she wanted to leave. Don't think she loved the show so much.
You were that good.
I was in the middle of Candle in the Wind. And she needed. Here we go. 270 venue. Quantum of the Seas, Singapore. We had government officials on board. They were part of Singapore Tourism Board, and they would be the ones like policing you, making sure you're wearing your masks and stuff like that. Anyway, so we really the people were heavily spaced out. Yeah, so you can see the audience perfectly. And in 270 venue, you've got like LEDs behind that light up the audience anyway, light up screens. Mm-hmm. And I can remember just looking over her and just seeing this woman, not having a clue what she was doing. Yeah, I watched it back on the camera. Because, of course, that's the moment broadcast started loving it. We watched this woman literally pull out a plastic bag out of a handbag, up her skirts, and just drop it in. I don't know how she didn't wipe. And then she just did it up and put it back in the bag, carry on watching the show. Now,
well, that is an endorsement of your ability to perform very well.
It just shows how captivating I am, doesn't it?
It really does.
That you can still poo into a bag in front of me whilst I'm performing.
Yeah.
And I ain't going to bat an eyelid. And there was another. I've seen people hold the children up and just let them wee on the floor in the middle of the promenade. Just like, what are you doing? There's a toilet just there. What the hell are you doing?
I thought you were going to say that was during one of your shows again. And
no, that wasn't. No. I don't. No, I'm not.
Here, Andy, look at my child. He can pee. He's a big boy.
I'm a musical laxative, And that's, yeah. So yeah, woman shitting in a bag. That was one. Yeah. I've seen all sorts. Buffet people. I've seen people like fill their food up from the buffet, and then they realise they've got too much, and they've eaten a bit, and they've mixed it with all their other food, and then they just go back up to the buffet and scrape it back in.
No. Oh, fuck off.
You're like,
Eyes are bigger than your belly.
Yeah, well, that's cruise ships. That's cruise lines, isn't it? That is cruise ships. You go to get fat. The average cruise passenger puts on half a stone a week. So, I worked on board. I was anorexic when I started on cruise ships. Look at me now.
I did a bit of filming for a second Decktails trailer at a friend's family studio 2 weeks ago. I filmed my intro and my outro and one of my sketches. And then in one of my middle sketches, I did a parody of, I did a Mr. Creosote parody sketch.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, the man who explodes Monty Python. Yeah,
Exactly, yeah. So the line is like, with endless...
Waffle thin mint.
Well, the one for the trailer I've written is like, with endless food on board, it's no surprise that some people come as guests and leave as cargo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
No, that's, a great one.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I mean, that's a proper cruise director line now. That is your, like, end of the week, run down before they go, you'd have that, like, for example, one favourite cruise director, Elvis Pinto, he'd be like, okay, everybody sit. You want to stay longer? Let's all flush the toilet at midnight. We go to New York, all that kind of stuff. You're like, great, incredible host as well. Elvis, he was one of my meanest cruise directors because he used to make me do the fun fitness dance class before his Zumba. And as you can tell, I am like a fitness royalty.
Yeah.
I am the epitome of fit and healthy.
You're Mr. Motivator's motivator.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, a lot of people have said that. A lot of people have.
He's on ships now as well, by the way.
Elvis is. Who? Mr. Motivator.
Mr. Motivator.
Really?
Yeah, he does the circuit.
What?
Yeah.
What's he do? Just
exactly what you just said. Classes and shit, probably.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mad.
I want to get him on.
Yeah, I'll do. That'd be amazing.
Were there any deaths or significant deaths that you remember happening?
Yeah. There's well, it happens. I mean, sometimes once a week, depending on what cruises you were doing. We had actually one of our station production managers die on board, and he was still alive. Well, he didn't die. He was still alive, and he had to be medevaced, and he died in a helicopter, I believe. Yeah. But that was really scary because when someone's at work and then all of a sudden they're not. Yeah, that was and that was on a really small ship. I can remember it really impacted my boss because she was really good friends with him.
And you just got to carry on like nothing happened.
Yeah, and it was awful. I mean, they did let people know. It was devastating. That was devastating. It was one that actually really, really sinks into me still to this day. There was a guest on board. He was in his 90s. His daughter had brought him with her, and she was in her 70s, anyway. So she was quite old and all of that. And he'd never been on a cruise, never been abroad. This was his first, never been on holiday, on a cruise. So this is the first time ever. He had a great time, incredible time. We made him join in with everything. This was on TUI, actually. Made him join in with everything, game shows, wheeled him onto the stage and stuff like that on his wheelchair. And he died in the waiting area of the airport.
What, before he got on the ship? On the way back?
Before he got on the plane to go home. So he had the whole cruise, had the whole cruise, had a great time, and died in the airport. And they sent a letter just saying he had the best time of his entire life. He died happy. Oh. That was important. That was it touched you. It did touch it. You were like, wow, that's it. Never take life for granted. And I mean,
went out on a real high.
Yeah, there's lots of incidences that of things like similar things like that happening on board, and mainly elderly. Yeah. It's a shame. But a lot of your guests are going to be older, aren't they?
So what is it you're doing now fully? You're doing the Elton John thing, but you're taking it on the road. You're doing it in venues around the country. Is that your main thing?
No, I'm not. I haven't done Elton John for a while. I do private shows.
Oh, okay.
But I haven't done Elton John for a while. I work for a big production company currently. I can't really, there's a reason why I'm not at home, for example. I can't really talk about that now. But yeah, it's I started a new job, basically. And I put on big scale productions, like big arena tours. I work with the artists, I work with their management, and I work with their agents in different ways. And yeah, that's what I do.
That's awesome.
Really, well, it's a really, I've always loved working in the industry, and before I got on the cruise ships, when I was doing my degree and stuff at uni, I was helping out bands and touring with them and working with these people. And I do get the opportunity to go and do large scale, work at large scale festivals and look after people, which is one of my favourite things to do, is look after people that make too much money and can't look after themselves anymore. So it's like being someone's mum when they're working away from their normal things, as in, like, we're on tour. I've got to organise bits and pieces,
And you're working tonight.
Yeah. I'm working as soon as we're done. I need to get a car to a venue, and then I need to extract that client from the venue and put them in the car.
Excellent stuff.
I still work in entertainment, but I don't perform. I don't perform anymore.
Oh,
nobody claps you when I send an email.
No one claps.
Which is shit.
It's a bit of a difficult one because that desire to entertain, it never leaves you, Andy. And you've been extremely entertaining speaking to me this evening. So thank you so much for coming on and being a guest on Deck Tales. I've really enjoyed it, and I don't want it to end.
Thank you for asking me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's been absolutely awesome, mate. Who should I interview next? If you've got people in mind, just have a think on it. And
have you had a captain yet?
No, I haven't got anyone on speed dial who's a captain, sadly.
No hotel directors?
Shatino's out of prison hopefully soon. Maybe I'll get him on.
Yeah, mate, there you go. That's a big story. That will sell your book.
He's out. He's not. He's not getting out early, is he?
He doesn't understand the impact that he had on the industry and our safety briefings that we now have to do on all the trainings. It's always about the Costa Concordia, isn't it? It's always about the Concordia. I
imagine so, yeah. Because that was 2 years after I finished on ships.
Yeah. Mad, isn't it?
Mad.
It was, and also that fire that happened on the Princess ship because somebody threw a cigarette overboard. Another thing that happens all the time.
Yes.
Every safety briefing, got to mention that. Mm-hmm. If the safety, I reckon they get like commission if they don't mention it. If they mention it, like from Marlborough or someone, you know.
Thank you so much for being a guest, Andy, and I hope you have a lovely evening and it's not too stressful at work. Alrighty? You
too. Have a wonderful time. Lovely pleasure to be asked on board.
That's
Enjoy.
Very kind. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, mate. All the best. Bye-bye. I'm already about the edit now. So there you have it. That wraps it up for this episode of Deck Tales. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've been entertained by the tales of laughter, camaraderie and the occasional stormy sea, then don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment. There are lots of other shows out there to compete with, so if you are enjoying Deck Tales, why not help us out by going over to Spotify or Apple and dropping us a 5-star rating. This will boost the show's visibility and help to attract new listeners every week. Before I sign off, if you'd like to share your own stories for a future episode, then I'd love to hear from you. Simply get in touch over the socials because after all, the best stories often come from our listeners. As we navigate through the waters of life, remember to enjoy the journey as much as the destination, as well as those you choose to share the adventure with. I've been your Captain Sammy Catlin. Until next time, fair winds, smooth sailing, and may your adventures be as unforgettable as those shared here on Deck Tales. Bon voyage!